Welcome to the Explainer. The last couple of years in real estate have been a complete roller coaster, right? But here in Indianapolis, it looks like the market is about to hit a major reset button. So today, we're going to look back at the big year of recalibration, that was 2025, to really understand what's coming in 2026 and, most importantly, how you can get ahead of it.
Before we really dive in, let's just anchor ourselves with one key number, 10%. That's how much more affordable Indianapolis consistently is compared to the national average. In a country where housing prices have been all over the place, that 10% buffer makes Indy a real beacon of stability, and it's the foundation for everything else we're about to talk about.
So, to get a handle on this reset, we're going to break it down into 5 parts. We'll kick things off by digging into the market's recent slowdown, and then we'll get into the hard numbers. We're going to see how this all played out differently from the suburbs to downtown before looking ahead to the 2026 rebound. And of course, we'll wrap up with a strategic playbook so you know exactly what moves you should be thinking about.
All right, let's jump into part 1, because to understand where we're going, we first have to know where we've been. And for the Indy market, 2025 was the year the music kind of slowed down. It was a year of balance and, well, adjustment.
So what does that actually mean, balance and adjustment? Well, it means 2025 pretty much slammed the brakes on that post-pandemic buying frenzy. For the first time in what feels like forever, the market wasn't just a one-sided game. The scales really tipped away from sellers, creating a much more level and, frankly, strategic playing field for everyone involved.
So, how do we know the scales actually tipped? Well, let's get into the key market metrics from 2025. These are the numbers that really prove this shift was real. The first huge number tells a story about supply. Housing inventory surged by a whopping 20 to 30% across a lot of the city, and this gave buyers something they hadn't seen in years, actual choice and the power to negotiate.
And what happens when buyers suddenly have more choices? Well, prices have to adjust. A staggering 56% of listings saw a price cut. Sellers couldn't just name their price anymore and expect a bidding war. They had to adapt to a much more competitive reality.
And when you put all these key data points together, they all tell the exact same story. Price growth? Modest, not explosive. Homes sat on the market for weeks, not hours. And yeah, builders were still building, but you could tell they were being cautious. The market didn't crash, it just cooled down from a frantic boil to a much healthier simmer.
So the bottom line here is really simple. More inventory, more price cuts, and more time on the market all added up to one thing, a massive power shift. For the first time in years, buyers were back in the driver's seat.
But here's the thing, that citywide power shift didn't feel the same everywhere. Nope. Depending on your zip code, 2025 told a very different story. Which brings us to our tale of 2 neighborhoods.
We really saw a clear split. On one side, you had your suburban stars, places like Fishers and Carmel, fueled by top-tier schools and the whole remote work thing. They just kept on shining. But on the other side, the downtown cores were moving a bit slower, as the city adjusted to these new hybrid work rhythms.
And this snapshot really highlights that difference, doesn't it? You can see how a neighborhood's unique character really drives its price. The vibrant, walkable culture of Broad Ripple, that commanded a premium. Meanwhile, the artsy, up-and-coming vibe of Fountain Square offered a more affordable way in, which just goes to show there were still pockets of value out there for savvy buyers.
Okay, so that was the year of adjustment. Now, let's turn our attention to the future, because after the cool down comes the rebound, and a lot of experts are calling 2026 the Great Housing Reset.
Now, if you look at the national picture, forecasters are, well, they're all over the map. You've got the National Association of Realtors calling for a massive 14% sales boom, while others, like Realtor.com, are predicting a much gentler uptick. It's a classic case of big optimism versus cautious realism. But while the national forecast is a bit fuzzy, the picture here in Indianapolis is a whole lot clearer. The local consensus is pointing to steady, healthy price growth right in that 2 to 4% range. And in those super popular suburbs, we could even see that climb to 5 to 7%. That's not a bubble, folks. That's what you call sustainable growth.
So what's fueling this positive outlook for Indy? It's basically a perfect storm of good factors. The big one is mortgage rates. They're expected to dip. That alone is probably going to unlock a wave of pent-up demand from all the buyers who sat on the sidelines last year. Then you add in a strong job market and major infrastructure projects, and you've got all the ingredients for a very active 2026.
So, with a rebound on the horizon, the big question is, what does any of this mean for you? Let's get into our final section,
your strategic playbook for navigating the Indy market in 2026.
For buyers, the takeaway is simple. Your window of opportunity is opening up right now. The really smart move is to get pre-approved before the spring rush hits. This lets you lock in a good rate and be ready to pounce on a deal while inventory is still getting back to normal.
Now for sellers, it's no longer enough to just list your home and hope for the best. Strategy is everything. Getting your home on the market early, in the first quarter, helps you stand out before that flood of spring listings. And in this market, presentation matters. Investing in curb appeal and getting a pre-inspection makes your home totally move-in ready, which could lead to a sale that's maybe 5 to 10% faster.
And finally, for you investors out there, all eyes are on the multifamily rental market. A growing population and new zoning laws are creating a prime opportunity. Projected cap rates, that's your annual return on the property, are in a very, very healthy 6 to 8% range. For investors looking for solid, consistent returns, Indy is checking all the right boxes. So let's just bring it all together. 2025 was the year the market took a breath. It recalibrated. That period of adjustment, it's over. 2026 is shaping up to be a unique window of opportunity, a real moment for clear, decisive action in the Indianapolis market. And that leaves us with one final question to think about. As this market resets, who's going to come out on top? Will it be the people who have been patiently waiting for the perfect moment, or the ones who are bold enough to just go out and create their own?